They were four Swedes who conquered the world. With their harmonies, heartbreak, and glittering outfits, ABBA became one of the most beloved pop groups of all time. But while the world danced to Mamma Mia and Waterloo, life behind the scenes was far from simple. Between tours, fame, and family pressures, ABBA's children grew up in a world few could imagine. So, where are they now? Did they follow in their parents' musical footsteps, or leave the spotlight behind for good? From actors and musicians to quiet lives away from fame, this is the story of ABBA's kids, the untold legacy behind pop music's most famous family. In the late 1960s, four young Swedish musicians crossed paths and changed pop music forever. Björn Ulvaeus was a guitarist and songwriter. Benny Andersson played keyboards and had already seen success with the Hep stars. Agnetha Fältskog was a rising solo singer with a crystal-clear voice, and Anni-Frid Lyngstad, or Frida, was a jazz and pop vocalist known for her expressive tone. Björn and Benny began writing songs together first, forming a creative partnership built on melody and storytelling. In 1969, both men met their future partners, Björn with Agnetha and Benny with Frida, and the chemistry between them was instant, both musically and personally. The two couples began performing together for fun, testing out harmonies, and writing new material that blended pop, folk, and a uniquely Swedish sound. By 1972, they decided to make things official, recording under the name Björn and Benny, Agnetha, and Anni-Frid. It wasn't exactly catchy, so they later shortened it to ABBA, a simple acronym made from the first letters of their names. Their big break came in 1974 when they entered the Eurovision Song Contest with Waterloo. The performance was bold, fun, and totally unlike anything Europe had seen from Sweden before. When they won, Agnetha later said, "It was like the world suddenly opened up." Benny described that moment as the beginning of something we couldn't quite believe. We were just four friends who loved making music. From there, ABBA's fame exploded. Songs like Mamma Mia, Fernando, and Dancing Queen became global anthems. They toured the world, sold millions of records, and defined an era of pop. But as their fame grew, so did the strain on their personal lives. The two couples, once inseparable, faced the challenges of constant travel, press attention, and creative pressure. Behind the dazzling performances were two families raising children in the glare of worldwide attention. Those children, Linda, Peter, Hans, and Lise, Peter Grönvall, and Heléne Grönvall. We've hit 10,000 subscribers, and it's all thanks to you. But this is just the beginning. If you want more deep dives, insights, and discoveries, hit that subscribe button. Let's reach those 15,000 subscribers together. Your support means a lot. Would grow up surrounded by music, love, and fame, yet most would later choose lives far removed from the spotlight their parents once owned. Now, decades later, we look at where those children are today and what it meant to grow up as the sons and daughters of ABBA. Linda Ulvaeus was born on February 23, 1973, in Stockholm, Sweden, the first child of ABBA's Agnetha Fältskog and Björn Ulvaeus. Her birth came just a year before her parents, together with Benny Andersson and Anni-Frid Lyngstad, would go on to win the Eurovision Song Contest with Waterloo and become one of the biggest pop groups in the world. From the moment she was born, Linda's life was tied to the glittering, intense world of ABBA, a world of music, constant travel, and immense fame. As ABBA's success skyrocketed, Agnetha and Björn tried to maintain a normal family life for Linda, but the pressures of touring and global attention made that difficult. In later interviews, Agnetha spoke about how painful it was to leave her children behind during long tours, saying that being separated from them was one of the hardest parts of her career. Some reports have claimed that after ABBA's Eurovision win and months of touring, when Agnetha and Björn returned home, their baby daughter barely recognized them, a small but telling glimpse into the challenges of raising a family under the spotlight. The years that followed were full of both success and personal strain. While the world saw ABBA as four smiling pop stars, their home lives were far more complicated. The pressures of fame and the demands of the industry eventually took a toll on both marriages in the group. Agnetha and Björn divorced in 1979, and although they remained devoted parents, their split and the band's eventual breakup brought dramatic change to Linda's life. Growing up, Linda often found herself caught between ordinary Swedish life and the extraordinary legacy of her parents. Media outlets have long speculated about the emotional side of her childhood, with some suggesting she struggled to adjust to the constant attention surrounding her family. One tabloid article even claimed that she experienced eating disorders and embarrassment over her parents' fame, though such stories remain unverified and should be treated cautiously. Still, it's undeniable that being the daughter of two of the world's most famous musicians came with unique challenges. Despite the chaos that surrounded her early years, Linda grew into a creative, grounded woman who found her own path in the arts. Rather than stepping into the pop music spotlight, she chose acting as her outlet. In 1998, she appeared in the Swedish film Under Solen, Under the Sun, a tender romantic drama that went on to receive an Academy Award nomination for Best Foreign Language Film. Her performance as Lena earned praise for its warmth and subtlety, proving she had genuine talent of her own. She continued her acting career with appearances in the television miniseries Labyrinthen in 2000, Blåmunda in 2001, and Meningen med Alltihopa in 2002-2006. In 2019, she returned to the screen in the crime drama Quick, playing Birgitta Ståhle. Over the years, she also lent her voice to the children's animated series Peppy Pals in 2017, showing her versatility as an artist. But Linda's creativity extended beyond acting. In 2011, she became an author, writing a series of children's books in collaboration with illustrator Johanna Lundqvist and actress Suzanne Reuter. The series, which began with Leijonlie och Bussbollen and Leijonlie, Pappan och Fisken, was released as both books and audiobooks. Linda explained that she began writing the stories during her pregnancy, a time when she wanted to keep expressing herself artistically despite being unable to work on camera. The Leijonlie books reflected her gentle, family-focused outlook on life, emphasizing imagination and emotional connection. Today, Linda lives in Sweden, on the island of Eckerö near Stockholm, close to her mother's estate. She has 3 daughters: Tilda, born in 2001, Esther, born in 2007, and Signe, born in 2010. And she has chosen to raise them away from the public eye. Friends and colleagues describe her as warm, thoughtful, and deeply private, someone who values peace and family over fame. Over the years, Linda has occasionally appeared at special ABBA-related events, often to support her parents, but she remains far removed from the world of celebrity. Instead, she has built a life centered on creativity, independence, and motherhood. Despite the drama and speculation that have surrounded ABBA and their families for decades, Linda has shown quiet strength and self-possession. She has crafted her own identity, separate from the dazzling shadow of ABBA, and continues to live life on her own terms. Her story is a reminder that behind the sparkle of pop history lies a human story. One of a daughter who grew up amid fame, found her own artistic voice, and chose a life defined not by the world's expectations, but by her own. Peter Christian Ulvaeus was born on December 4, 1977, in Sweden. the second child of Agnetha Fältskog and Björn Ulvaeus during the height of ABBA's international success. Growing up as the son of two of the world's most famous musicians, Peter's early life was surrounded by music, yet his parents worked hard to protect him and his sister Linda from the intense public attention that came with ABBA's fame. At the age of 10, Peter recorded a children's CD with his mother that featured the song På söndag, which became a popular hit in Sweden. It was one of the few times he appeared publicly alongside Agnetha, giving fans a glimpse of the family's warm musical connection outside of ABBA. As he grew older, Peter's interests turned toward science and technology. After completing school, he went on to study physics and engineering at university, showing a natural aptitude for problem-solving and design. His fascination with technology led him to develop a military strategy computer game called Strategica, which combined his love for innovation with a sharp analytical mind. Later, Peter entered the world of digital design and co-founded a company called Studio Centurion with Roger Sonnenfeld, the son of his former stepfather, Thomas Sonnenfeld, and Dennis Persson. The firm specialized in multimedia and web development, and among its projects was the creation of the official website for his sister, Linda Ulvaeus. Despite his famous lineage, Peter has lived a remarkably private life. He continues to reside in Sweden and has built a quiet, independent career far from the entertainment spotlight. Intelligent, private, and creative, he has chosen a path defined not by fame, but by his own curiosity and ingenuity, a different kind of legacy within the ABBA family. Peter Grönvall was born in 1963, the son of ABBA's Benny Andersson and his then-partner, Christina Grönvall. Long before ABBA became an international phenomenon, Benny was already a well-known musician in Sweden with the Hep Stars, and Peter grew up surrounded by instruments, melodies, and studio sessions. Music was simply a part of life in the Grönvall household. Unlike some of ABBA's other children who sought quieter lives, Peter followed in his father's musical footsteps, but always in his own way. In the late 1980s, he co-founded the pop group One More Time with his wife Nana Grönvall and singer Maria Rödsten. Their emotionally rich, melodic pop sound resonated with Swedish audiences and quickly gained a following across Europe. Their song, Highland, became a major hit in 1992 and remains one of the most memorable Swedish pop tracks of the decade. A few years later, the group represented Sweden in the Eurovision Song Contest with the hauntingly beautiful Den Vilda, which finished in third place. The moment was deeply symbolic. More than 20 years after Benny's own Eurovision win with ABBA, his son was standing on the same stage, continuing the family's connection to one of music's most iconic competitions. Beyond performance, Peter built a long and respected career as a composer, producer, and arranger, working with artists across Sweden and contributing to television and stage productions. His work is known for its melodic strength and emotional depth, qualities often compared to his father's writing. Despite the inevitable comparisons, Peter has always spoken of Benny and Christina with affection and gratitude. In one interview, he said, "I grew up with music everywhere. It wasn't just a career for my parents, it was part of our home, part of who we were. They never pushed me into it, but they inspired me every day." Peter married Nana Grönvall in 1984, and together they have built one of Sweden's most enduring partnerships in music. The couple has 3 sons, Felix, Robin, and Charlie Grönvall. All 3 grew up surrounded by creativity and music. Their son Charlie has followed most closely in his parents' footsteps, becoming a musician and television personality in his own right. Despite their long careers in entertainment, Peter and Nanne have always placed family first. They've earned a reputation in Sweden for their warmth, humility, and ability to stay grounded despite their success. Their home has often been described as lively, creative, and full of laughter, a place where music is not a business, but a way of life. Today, Peter continues to write, arrange, and produce music in Sweden, occasionally collaborating with Nanne and supporting their son's creative pursuits. Though he never sought the same kind of worldwide fame that ABBA experienced, Peter Grönvall has carried the Andersson family's musical legacy into a new generation, with talent, humility, and a deep respect for the influence of his parents, who taught him that true success comes from creating something that lasts. Heléne Grönvall was born on June 25, 1965, in Sweden, the daughter of Benny Andersson and Christina Grönvall, and the younger sister of Peter Grönvall. Her birth came during Benny's early musical career when he was playing keyboards with the Hepstars, one of Sweden's most popular bands of the 1960s. Benny and Christina met as teenagers in the early 1960s and shared both a romantic and musical bond. Christina occasionally performed with Benny's early groups, and their shared love for music created a strong creative partnership. They had 2 children together, Peter in 1963 and Heléne in 1965, before their relationship ended later in the decade as Benny's musical career took off. Christina chose to focus on raising their children, while Benny's work eventually led him to join forces with Björn Ulvaeus, and later form ABBA. Heléne grew up largely away from the spotlight. While her father went on to become one of the most successful songwriters of all time, she has always chosen a quiet and private life. Unlike her brother Peter, who became a well-known musician and producer in Sweden, Heléne has never appeared in public interviews, performances, or entertainment projects. Media outlets describe her as someone who avoids the public completely, and little is known about her professional life. However, family information shared through official bios and fan archives confirms that Benny Andersson has 6 grandchildren: Charlie, Felix, and Fabian from Peter's family, and Malin, Viola, and Leonard from Heléne's. This means that although she lives privately, Heléne has built a family of her own in Sweden. Her father later married Mona Nurklet, a Swedish television producer, in 1981, and they had a son, Ludvig Andersson, in 1982. Ludvig would go on to follow Benny's musical path, working closely with him on projects such as ABBA Voyage, the innovative digital concert in London that brought the band's music to a new generation. While Heléne's life remains out of the public eye, she represents the most private side of the ABBA family story, one grounded in love, family, and a conscious choice to live outside the glare of fame. Her life stands as a quiet contrast to the extraordinary success of her father, showing that even within one of pop music's most famous families, some choose peace and privacy over the spotlight. Hans Ragnar Fredriksson was born in 1963 in Sweden, the son of Anni-Frid Lyngstad, known worldwide as Frida from ABBA, and her first husband, Ragnar Fredriksson. He was Frida's first child, born before the global fame that would later surround his mother. Frida and Ragnar married in 1964, and together they had 2 children, Hans in 1963 and Anne-Liselotte Fredriksson in 1967. Their marriage ended in 1969, the late 1960s, as Frida's career began to accelerate. Determined to succeed as a singer, she continued performing across Sweden while also raising her 2 children. Hans spent his childhood in Sweden, living a relatively normal life, despite his mother's growing fame. Frida has often spoken about the difficulty of balancing motherhood with her career. In one interview, she reflected, "When you're young, you think you can handle everything. But looking back, I wish I could have spent more time with my children. They were always in my heart, even when I was far away." Hans grew into a quiet and independent man who preferred to live privately, far removed from the glittering world that had surrounded his mother. He built his own life and career outside the entertainment industry, often described by those who knew him as kind, thoughtful, and compassionate. He lived for a time in the United States, where he was known to enjoy a simple, grounded lifestyle. Tragically, Hans's life was cut short. In 1998, he died in a car accident in the United States at the age of 35. His death came just months after his sister Ann-Lise Lotta was killed in a separate car crash in Sweden, leaving Frida devastated by the loss of both her children in the same year. Frida later spoke about her grief, saying that the loss changed her forever. "There are no words for that kind of pain," she said. "When you lose a child, part of you disappears with them. But you have to learn to live with it and find peace somehow." After these tragedies, Frida largely withdrew from public life, settling in Switzerland with her husband, Prince Heinrich Rutzow-Reuss of Plauen. There, she dedicated herself to charity work, environmental causes, and quiet reflection. Hans did not have any children, and with his passing, Frida was left without surviving biological descendants. Though his life was short, his memory remains deeply cherished by those who knew him, a reminder that even behind ABBA's global success were deeply human stories of love, family, and loss. Ann-Lise Lotta Fredriksson was born in 1967 in Sweden, the second child of Anni-Frid Lyngstad, Frida of ABBA, and her first husband, Ragnar Fredriksson. She grew up alongside her older brother, Hans Ragnar Fredriksson, during the years before ABBA became one of the most successful pop groups in history. Her parents divorced when she was still very young, and much of her early childhood was spent in Sweden, raised largely away from the growing fame that would later surround her mother. When Frida's career began to take off in the early 1970s, the family's life changed dramatically. Frida joined forces with Benny Andersson, Björn Ulvaeus, and Agnetha Fältskog to form ABBA, a project that would transform her from a Swedish singer into an international icon. Despite her mother's global fame, Ann-Lise Lotta lived a quiet and private life. She chose not to follow in her mother's musical footsteps and instead focused on building a family of her own. She married Charles Gerrit Casper, a Dutchman, and together they had a daughter, Elsa, who was born in the late 1980s. Ann-Lise Lotta's life was rooted in normalcy, centered around her family, and far removed from the pressures of fame. Tragically, her life was cut short. In 1998, at the age of 30, Ann-Lise Lotta was killed in a car accident in Sweden, just months before her brother Hans died in a separate accident in the United States. The double tragedy struck Frida deeply, and she withdrew almost completely from public life in the years that followed. In later interviews, Frida spoke about her unimaginable loss, saying quietly, "When you lose your children, everything changes. It's something you never get over, but somehow you learn to keep going." Friends close to her described those years as a period of reflection and rebuilding, as Frida turned her focus toward spiritual growth, nature, and humanitarian work. Ann-Lise Lotta's daughter, Elsa, is Frida's only known grandchild, and it is believed that they have maintained a private and loving relationship over the years. Frida has rarely spoken publicly about her family, choosing to protect their privacy. While Ann-Lise Lotta Fredriksson's life ended far too soon, her story is remembered as a tender and human part of the ABBA legacy, a reminder that behind the music and fame were real lives touched by both extraordinary success and heartbreaking loss. Ludvig Andersson was born on April 10, 1982, in Stockholm, Sweden, the son of Benny Andersson and Mona Nerklit, a Swedish television producer. His birth came at a time when Benny was transitioning from the whirlwind years of ABBA's global fame into a new phase of his musical life, focused on composing, producing, and exploring new creative frontiers. Benny and Mona had met in 1980 while working in Swedish television and married in 1981, just before Ludvig's birth. The couple built a stable, grounded family life away from the frenzy of ABBA's fame. Ludvig grew up in Stockholm, surrounded by music, recording studios, and the creative energy of Sweden's thriving music scene. Unlike his older half-siblings Peter and Heléne Grönvall, who were born before ABBA's rise, Ludvig was raised in a quieter era, where his father's focus had shifted toward composition and orchestral projects rather than pop stardom. From a young age, Ludvig showed a natural interest in music and creativity. In the early 2000s, he founded the Swedish rock band Ella Rouge, where he served as the group's lead vocalist and guitarist. The band released 2 albums, Ella Rouge, 2007, and Electric Life, 2011, earning critical praise for its blend of modern rock and thoughtful, melodic songwriting. Ludvig's sound was notably distinct from his father's, darker, introspective, and influenced by alternative and art rock. As he matured, Ludvig transitioned into producing and managing creative projects. Working closely with his father at RM Studio in Stockholm, he helped produce several of Benny's solo albums and film soundtracks. Their collaboration deepened over time and eventually culminated in one of the most ambitious music projects of the century, ABBA Voyage. As executive producer of ABBA Voyage, Ludvig played a central role in bringing the virtual concert to life. The groundbreaking show, which opened in London in 2022, features digital avatars, ABBAtars, of the 4 ABBA members performing with a live band. Ludvig worked alongside his father, Björn Ulvaeus, and a team from Industrial Light and Magic to make the concept a reality. Reflecting on the experience, Ludvig said, "It's been surreal to see how something my father created 40 years ago can still move people today. To help carry that legacy forward has been an honor." Outside of his professional achievements, Ludvig values family life above all. He is married to Mimi Andersson, and together they have 2 children. The couple lives in Sweden and keeps their personal life private, maintaining the same balance between art and normalcy that Benny and Mona modeled decades earlier. Today, Ludvig continues to manage projects under RM Studio and serves as a creative bridge between ABBA's legendary past and its digital future. Through his work as a musician, producer, and family man, Ludvig Andersson carries forward the Andersson legacy, proving that while the sound of ABBA defined a generation, its spirit of creativity and innovation lives on through the next. The story of ABBA's children is one of contrast, a blend of fame and privacy, of creative inheritance and deliberate distance from the spotlight. While their parents became some of the most recognizable faces in music history, their sons and daughters have each chosen their own paths, some stepping into the arts, others retreating from the public eye altogether. Agnetha Fältskog and Björn Ulvaeus' children, Linda and Peter, grew up in the heart of ABBA's fame. Linda became an actress and author, while Peter chose a quiet, intellectual life in science and technology, blending creativity with innovation. Both built grounded lives in Sweden, a reflection of their parents' desire to protect them from the chaos of global celebrity. Benny Andersson's family shows the same mix of artistic drive and personal privacy. His eldest son, Peter Grönvall, became a respected musician, composer, and producer in Sweden, continuing his father's musical legacy through his own band, One More Time. Peter's sister, Heléne Grönvall, lives privately and has a family of her own, while Benny's youngest son, Ludvig Andersson, has become one of the key figures behind ABBA's modern revival, producing ABBA Voyage and helping introduce the band to a new generation through groundbreaking technology. Anni-Frid Lyngstad's family story is both inspiring and heartbreaking. Her son, Hans Ragnar Fredriksson, and daughter Anne-Liselotte Fredriksson both died tragically in 1998, only months apart. Anne-Liselotte left behind a daughter, Elsa Kasper, who remains Frida's only known grandchild, a private figure who continues the family line quietly, far from fame. Together, the children and grandchildren of ABBA's 4 members represent a quieter legacy of one of music's greatest stories. They are a generation shaped by creativity, but also by the lessons of living with fame, the desire for privacy, authenticity, and personal fulfillment beyond public recognition. Though few of them have followed directly in their parents' footsteps, the values of music, family, and integrity continue to echo through their lives. ABBA's music brought joy to millions, but for their children, the truest harmony seems to come not from the stage, but from the quieter rhythm of ordinary life. What do you think? Which of ABBA's children surprised you the most? Did you know about their careers, their creative projects, or the personal stories behind their families? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this look into ABBA's legacy beyond the spotlight, remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories about the people behind the music. Thank you for watching. Even when the lights fade, the music and the family live on.